I heard the baby cry, and then I'm like, oh, finally. And then I'm relaxed. But then I didn't hear anything again. Why is the baby not crying anymore? Why? So about 4 years ago, I got married. My wife and I decided we were going to wait for 2 years before we started trying for a baby. So as opposed to 2 years, 1.5 years, we decided to start trying. And then it wasn't happening, so we went to the hospital, and then we found out that my wife had PCOS, polycystic ovarian something. So we found out that my wife had PCOS, but obviously because they had to check for the man as well if your sperm count was low. I'm not going to lie, when I went to do a test for sperm count, I was scared, like really scared that, what if my sperm count is low, And obviously, it was just an emotional, and then you had to go to the toilet and do what you had to do, and because obviously it was a small hospital, it wasn't like the toilet was, any sort of way, or it wasn't like they'll give you any magazine, and I didn't know what I was doing, basically, because, yeah, it's just something I didn't used to do. Anyway, I come home one day, and she had turned off the lights. My wife watches too many Rainbow films. She had turned off the lights, candles, and then she's like, guess what? And then she's filming, and then I opened the box, and then she had cut, she had time. She cut like tissue and colored tissue, and then I brought out the steak, and she was filming me, and then, obviously, basically she was pregnant. This pregnancy stick was in there. And I'm just like, oh, you're just cheesy and whatnot for whatever reason. And she's like, oh, react, you're on video. Anyway, yeah, we're happy, After a while, we prayed, and then after a while, oh, should we tell our family? We'll just tell our immediate family. So I told my siblings. I can't remember the exact number of weeks, but basically she did a test. They found out she was pregnant, maybe 5 weeks pregnant. But then the doctor was like, this is really nice. A lot of people don't come in early, that they don't know they're pregnant really early. And my wife was like, oh, she's sensitive to her body and whatnot. Obviously, we paid paid the fees, and obviously we'll start antenatal in a month. And then about a week later, my wife was spotting. We go to the hospital, and then the doctor says, oh, she tries to be very nice about it, but basically she ends with what I'm trying to say is that this might be a threatened pregnancy. Now, is it threatened pregnancy or abortion? But threatened pregnancy. And she gives you all the worst case scenarios, and she's like, I'm not saying that's what will happen, it's just as in my duty to tell you. But obviously in my head, that's what's playing out, and then you try to faith things. But basically they said she had to be on bed rest. So she was on bed rest, but we didn't want to tell anyone in the family. So I had to go home, bring her clothes, come back to the hospital. The doctor said that they were going to check the following Monday, which was, I think that was a Friday. She was in the hospital for 2 days, but my wife was upset that she was in the hospital because she felt fine. It was just the emotional turmoil and whatnot. And then the strangest thing was we now had to go and do a scan. So we went to a lab for the scan, and then they said that there's nothing there, that she's not pregnant. So we told the doctor, and the doctor did a scan herself and said, okay, what they did in the lab is right, because she can't see anything, but for whatever reason, like if not that she had done the scan herself, she would have believed that she wasn't pregnant, as in that there was nothing there, because I think there was meant to be, at least if there was an abortion or whatever, there was meant to still be a gestation, if I'm correct, I'm not sure I'm correct of the terms and whatnot, but I think there was still meant to be a gestational sac, which they would now flush out or anything, but there wasn't even a sac, so it was like you were never pregnant. But the doctor was just like, you know what, this is the strangest thing ever, and yes, we're not going to flush anything out, but I wouldn't say you weren't pregnant, and I wouldn't say you were pregnant, but I wouldn't say you weren't pregnant. So it was just an emotional moment for the both of us. And okay, so before we left, the doctor was like, okay, so do you guys want to give it some time before you try again? And I was like, yeah, maybe we should, because obviously I wanted my wife to make sure, because my wife likes to put on a brave face, like, oh yeah, I'm cool, I'm good and everything. And so, and she was like, no, that she'll just, yeah, go right back in to try. But obviously at some point we went, and then I remember having a conversation with my wife one day, and she was like, oh, she feels guilty that she didn't feel any attachment to the pregnancy that we lost, because, and then we had the discussion, and I was like, yeah, maybe because we knew for 1 week, and it's not like anything has started to manifest, so there wasn't really like a connection. So I guess that's why it was easy for her to get back on. So one day I get home, and then my wife is, and then she says, oh, Lani, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, are you serious? Oh, nice. Both of us, nobody wants to get too excited. It's evident, but nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to talk about what could possibly go wrong based on the experience we had. But I could tell she was waiting to be a bit further along, so that there wouldn't be any case of, oh, were you pregnant or not pregnant? But I just wanted to go immediately. But I'm the kind of person that I'll state what I want, and then the truth is, yeah, it's both of us, but how do I put it? It's her body. I'll have the conversation, but I try to respect what she wants. And so we did that, and then we went in, she's pregnant. Obviously, if you're just very cautious, like, oh, so this time we now didn't tell, because one of the hardest points the first time was to now tell people that, oh, we're no more pregnant. Oh, what happened? Kilo shele, da da da. And then yeah, we're so sorry. That's when it even hurts more, because that's when we now had that conversation, and she said with everybody saying sorry, she feels guilty that she doesn't connect, and I'm like, I feel the same, so it's not just you. I just didn't want to say, because so that you won't say that, which kind of man is this, that kind of thing. But yeah, so this time we decided, oh, we're not telling anybody. So we waited, I think, if I remember correctly, it was until the second trimester that we told any family member. So to be fair, her pregnancy was pretty easy. She had no cravings. She had what people said was a pregnancy glow. Well, she had the pregnancy glow. Yeah. So I agree with that. So that she doesn't come and say, yeah, she had a pregnancy glow. So it was good. The only thing was that she had really bad heartburns, so she couldn't eat much. If she drank just a little bit of water, she would have to like sit up for a long time to digest water, and it just felt strange. But then obviously at some point you now start to feel the baby kicking. It's an emotional experience. So sometimes the baby is kicking and disturbing her, and then she's now like, oh, Lani, come and feel your baby, and then I go and touch, and then there's nothing. So basically it felt like the baby just didn't want me to feel her kicking. And so she used to like have chunks of ice block and just lick them, and anytime she had ice block, the baby would react and move. So anytime she wanted the baby to move, she would take ice blocks and whatnot. And then I guess that was a craving, but that was what she used to take like a bit of. Well, when we were dealing with that miscarriage, because I'm a writer, at the same time, I was working on a show with another writer, and basically on the production, and one of the storylines in the show was that the character loses her baby. That made it quite difficult for me, because every time I'm just trying to work, and then obviously we're trying to develop this story, and then this happens, and then this happens, my brain just connects to what might be possibly happening. During some of the part of the workshop for the story I was working on, there was that period of uncertainty as, oh, is there a baby, isn't there a baby? So it messed up with my mind a little bit, I must confess. But we had a fantastic doctor, and we took to her, the doctor took to us, and I felt like we just bonded, because it was the same doctor that was with us when we had the miscarriage. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but the miscarriage. She was pregnant and everything, but the day we did a scan, and I'm looking at the baby move, and then the doctor is telling us to guess, is it a boy, is it a girl? Obviously, she guessed it was a boy, I guessed it was a girl, based on what we were looking at. I guess I'm more of a doctor, but it was just, I feel like that was the first real emotional moment for me, like, oh shit, it's happening. I remember I went to her office pulled out my laptop. I wrote, I can't even remember the title of the letter I wrote, but I wrote a letter, opened an email for my daughter who hadn't come yet, and then I sent the letter to her email address. And so yeah, I gave obviously my wife read it and she was like, oh, I didn't know you could be so sweet. I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes. So obviously we kept moving. I was like, oh, I'm going to be writing a letter every week too. Yeah, I didn't write any letter for a while. They say, I think week 26, they say we're going to do an anomaly scan, and then again, you don't want to discuss I didn't want to discuss some of my fears with my wife, but I'm like, oh my days, what if there's something wrong with the baby? But we never discussed it. My wife didn't want to do the anomaly scan. She had been reading this confessional book. I can't remember the name of the book now, but she used to make a lot of confessions, and I think she was just quite confident. I wasn't. I should have been, but I wasn't. I don't know, I feel like when you love something so much and you're scared to lose it, you kind of lose a bit of strength. I don't know. I just couldn't understand myself, because normally I'm calm about certain situations, but it was a bit of an anomaly for me. So yeah, the anomaly scan was but that's what it meant. So we did the anomaly scan, and then it was fine. And then afterwards, I now tell my wife my fears, and she's like, "Are you serious? Why didn't you tell me?" And she's like, "Oh, she was quite confident, nothing was going to be wrong." And then so that goes along, and then we keep going for antenatal, and then fast forward 36 weeks. 36 weeks. So on this particular Thursday, come downstairs, try to start the car. My key breaks, so basically I had to take an Uber. In hindsight, as in like, I remember my wife saying we should have known that things were going to go wrong that day. The moment that happened, I get my mechanic to come over, fix my key, and then drop it over, drop the key with someone. So we go to the hospital. It's like a regular day. We've been doing antenatals for we're experienced in antenatals, Just go a couple of hours, take her back to her office, go back to my office. So the doctor that had been seeing us was on leave at this time. So obviously there was a different consultant that was filling in for her. So basically the doctor was like, oh, he was trying to be very jovial, nice guy. And he's like, okay, so here's the thing, I'm looking at your records. He says you're 36 weeks gone, and he's asking all the questions, several questions. And I just say this thing. Why are you asking the question? Because your question is giving us more tension, man. It's based on the scan that the baby is 33 weeks. So basically there's like a lag that the baby is not growing as much as she should, and they want to know why. So obviously they check her BP and whatnot, and then the other worry is that obviously in the scan, they check the baby's weight, and the baby is 1.98 kg. Apparently that's small for someone that is 36 weeks gone. So obviously he's talking, what does that mean? And he says, he's trying to say things that he's not trying to say, so he's trying to be very diplomatic. And I guess that was a bit more annoying for me. I would have liked to know just, But anyway, he says it, and he says, so he's not sure what they need to do, that he needs to refer to our doctor who has been seeing us to let her know, but my wife wanted to say, okay, so we'll come back, and he's like, oh no, you're not going anywhere, that we need to keep you under close observation, so you have to basically be on a bed rest. So I don't even think I've discussed it with my wife before, but I don't know, I feel like in that moment, I don't know why, but I feel like we felt the same thing. And the thing in our mind was like, okay, the last time they told us to be in the hospital it's just going to be a couple of days. It ended up being bad news. But I didn't say it, and my wife didn't say it. I don't even know, I'll probably ask her after this. But it felt like we felt the same thing. She says that she doesn't want to stay in the hospital, so I try to convince her, and then I say, okay, you know what we'll do? We'll go to a lab. There's this other lab. Before we go to the lab, they do other tests. They do a Doppler test, and they do a biophysical profile. So I guess, the thing is that those ones came out fine, so the only problem was that this baby was showing that it's 33 weeks old, and there's something preventing the baby from growing. So basically there was, I think they called it IUGR. intrauterine growth restriction. So obviously, as the doctor is talking, I'm already Googling under the phone, like under the table. And yeah, Google can be the worst place to go to because you see all the worst cases. And so we go to the hospital, to the lab. We do the test, and it's the same thing. What she's measuring, I think in the hospital she was measuring 33 days, 30, the baby was measuring 32 weeks and some days. So it basically was just a few days different between the lab and the hospital. But the good thing is that the biophysical profile was fine. Doppler test, both of them were fine. And then at the hospital, the baby was weighing 2.1 something, 2.1, let's just say 2.1. So we came back to the hospital and the doctor said, okay, 2.1 is better, but it's still not where it needs to be. And so one of the other things playing on our mind is that the last time we saw our doctor, before she traveled, she said, oh, okay, your amniotic fluid is on the lower level of normal, but it's still fine. So obviously all these things are playing in your mind like, okay, what if it has gone from that lower level of normal to what it shouldn't be? And we stayed in the hospital that day. So I just had to go home, take a taxi home, get the car, get her clothes. So I come back to the hospital. This was a Thursday, a very long Thursday. So obviously I slept in the hospital as well. They were monitoring her obviously on an hourly basis while she was in the hospital. Then I can't remember if we did a test called the non-stress test. So we must have done that on Friday, right? Yeah, we did that on Friday. So we did the non-stress test. The doctor came, took her to the, basically did the test, lasted about 30 minutes, and they said they will come back and interpret the results to us in an hour. Obviously, an hour after, he doesn't come back. And then on one of my trips out to, I think I was going to get food for her, I bump into the doctor and I'm like, okay, how far now? You said you were coming back. And the guy said, you see, the thing is, there's a way when people start talking, he said, the thing is, I was scared to come back, but since you're alone now, I'll just tell you. So he shows me the sheets or whatever it is, the report, because the non-stress test, there's just like, yeah, anyway, he shows it to me. And then he's showing me apparently that non-stress test, I can't remember the terms now, there are 4 things that they need to look for, because I think the non-stress test was to check the baby's heart, to see how the baby was faring in the womb. And he says that one of the things they look for is 2 spikes. So he says if the spikes are of a certain level, he explained it to me, of a certain level, I think they're called accelerations. If the spikes are of a certain level, that they need 2 within the period they checked for, and they can only see 1, and the other one, basically, he wasn't getting what he hoped for. And what he thinks is that we might have to bring out the baby. My wife didn't want to hear that, so I didn't want to relay this to my wife. So obviously we come back. I'm thinking, should I tell her, should I not tell her? I don't tell her. So what I do is I agree with the doctor that, okay, you know what, let's do a non-stress test again tomorrow, So we do a non-stress test. Obviously, my wife is chilling because it's just a test, as in they just put things on you and on the baby. As the test is going on, there's a sheet printing out from the machine. So I go and I'm standing there like a doctor and I'm reading. And she's teasing me that, what are you looking at? That what do you know that you're reading? And I'm just laughing that, don't you know I'm a doctor? But I was actually looking for what the doctor had explained to me the previous day. And I didn't see it. As in this time I didn't even see accelerations. So I'm panicking, but because obviously I know that if I freak out, my wife will freak out. My wife is calm because I'm calm. I need to be a calming factor. Well, she mentions it a couple of times that she starts to panic when I panic, So I'm just calm. I'm just making jokes, and then I go to the doctor. The doctor comes, and then I leave with the doctor, and then the doctor. But this time the doctor explains to both of us. Then later I explained to her that, look, the doctor had explained to me before, and that's what I was looking at, and this is basically the situation. And then so our consultant apparently was back from holiday, but she wasn't going to resume till Monday. So this was a Saturday, but things were still, there wasn't things were calm in the hospital. Nobody oh yeah, we think you should bring out the baby. There was still a conversation, a civil conversation. Because it was a long Saturday, we did test a couple of things. So I said I was going to the house. to, obviously, so because I needed to be there for the cleaner to be able to clean. So I went to the house. Cleaner came late, and then I'm a Tottenham fan, so I now chilled and was watching Tottenham Liverpool, and I was bantering with my brother on the phone because he's a Liverpool fan, and then I get a call from my wife, and I'm like, oh, I'll call you back, and then she's doing a video call, and I'm thinking, why are you doing a video call? Because we don't do video calls normally, so I'm thinking, And then she calls me that, hey, so I pick up and she's smiling and whatnot, so I'm like, oh, okay. It's crazy, like, cause in my mind, like, cause of the state of affairs or the way things were at the time, everything, for me, everything could mean like, oh, is this bad news, And so I pick up the call, and then she's like, oh, our doctor is here, as in that she said that she just went grocery shopping and she doesn't know, she just found herself in the hospital because her mind was just with us, and she wanted to come and do this scan herself because they had been reporting to her, as in everything, all the results of the tests, they had been reporting to her, and we had spoken to her. I guess I was having best of both worlds. I was watching the football game on mute, and then I was watching like them doing the test, and my wife was there, and obviously, and I'm watching both, and then they score, so I can't react because I have to be with my wife, and even though I'm angry for that, and I'm scared for this, it was crazy, but yeah. And then the doctor says, oh, she's done the test, she's done everything, and then my wife says, okay, she'll call me back, as in she's going to have a conversation with the doctor. So basically, my wife and I had agreed that I shouldn't come back to the hospital that night because I was a bit tired. But obviously, based on that, I said I'm coming back to the hospital tonight and to sleep again. So I went back to the hospital, and getting to the hospital, my wife is like, oh boy, they've said we have to bring out the baby tomorrow. I'm like, what do you mean by you have to bring? He said that, as in, that they don't want to take any risks, that there's something preventing the baby from growing, and if they knew what it was, like if it was blood pressure, if it was diabetes, if it was something that they knew, then they'll be able to give her drugs and be able to control. But because they don't know what it is, then basically they have to bring the baby out of a threatened environment. Obviously, you hear that word threatened again, and some things just basically tension you during those moments. There were a lot of concerns, but one of my wife's concerns was that that it wasn't going to be our doctor that was going to be operating on her, because she had, and I get it, because I felt more comfortable if it was going to be our doctor that we had been dealing with from the beginning. But because for whatever reason, because she hadn't resumed, she was around now in town, but she wasn't resuming till Monday, then she couldn't come in and perform the CS, So there were other things. So obviously at this point, we start telling family members that, okay, so we're in the hospital, and they're like, oh, do the CS, do it tomorrow. And while my wife is telling me that, look, like Lani, like she's holding the stomach, like the baby is fine, there's nothing wrong. So obviously, because my wife is being stubborn, everybody's coming to me and expecting that, Lani, talk to your wife. But I'm listening to my wife, and again, I get it, because for whatever reason, I just feel like, look, you're the one carrying this baby, you're the one that has some sort of connection. I'm just this guy that is there. Like, you're the one with the connection, you're the one that knows. And I believe her that, look, I feel fine. Like, I feel like the baby's fine, the baby's kicking. And yes, the baby was kicking. Like, there isn't like any irregular activity. Okay, now this is one of the things that really scared me. So when I came back to the hospital, my wife is like, wow, it's funny I'm laughing now. But my wife is like, so Lani, so one of the things they said, as in that we have the operation tomorrow, or bring out the baby tomorrow, and that if we do not bring it out tomorrow, then we'll have to sign a form, basically stating that they advised us and it was our will not to bring out the baby. So if anything happens, basically, or we're on our own. That was a freaking scary moment. I don't even know whether in my mind, I just felt like, oh, at least like the responsibility is still with like the professionals, but in that instance, I'm like, So I'm now trying to because another thing is like, my wife has never been, I don't even think she had any injection in her life before. So I just felt like my wife had to be emotionally ready. So so what I was trying to avoid was that we force the situation I wanted her to come to the decision that, okay, you know what, yeah, let's do it tomorrow, you know. But we kept going back and forth. So they will call us like, how far have you guys made up your mind? I'm like, well, like, oh no. 7 o'clock, oh no. 8 o'clock, I'm like, okay, no, I don't even think it started from like 6. I think it started from like 8 or 9, I'm not sure. But anyway, we still didn't make up our mind, because we were calling people. I called our marriage counselors, they prayed. Our marriage counselor referred me to her family, a doctor in Trinidad and Tobago. I was calling a friend in the industry whose husband is a doctor. I'm speaking to the guy, you know. And then, so basically they'll tell you that, oh, they just, are you doing natural birth? Oh, they just want to do CS because the hospital is trying to generate revenue. That don't let them do CS. I'll now go, okay, we're not doing CS. They now say that, oh, they can't do the CS because the baby didn't pass the non-stress test. And if they push, then the labor might put the baby under stress. Well, I learned a lot of medical terms in 5 days, basically. But it will put the baby under stress, and then they wouldn't be in control. You know, so we're battling all this, we're battling advice from several places, and I'm basically trying to, for me, my most important thing, I'm trying to say, wife, woman, babe, what's up? Like, you know, what are we doing? You know, it feels like that was the first time she asked. She's like, what do you think? And it feels like for the first time I was thinking, I don't know. And I said, I genuinely don't know, because obviously sometimes, obviously in marriage, she's asking me questions and I'm like, I don't know, maybe because I don't want to talk about whatever we're talking about, but I'm like, this time I'm like, I don't know, like, I genuinely don't know. And then we all hold hands and whatnot, and then I say, I'm only going to say this once, so that you know what I'm thinking. And then I say, because she wanted to keep the baby and in there, and I said, if we keep the baby in there, and then when it's time, when we basically deliver and something happens to the baby, would you be able to live with yourself? And if you take the baby out now, and basically nothing was wrong with the baby, and you felt like, oh yeah, you could have stayed longer, would you be able to live with yourself? You know, so for me, it felt like I was pouring out, that was the only way I could pour out some of the negative thoughts I was feeling without making her scared. But she got it. She got everything I was trying to say in that. So she now says, okay, like, but if we're going to do it, let's wait till Monday. Reason being, because she wanted the day to at least be mentally prepared to go under the knife. And I get that. And then 2, by Monday, our doctor would have resumed and she would be the one to perform the surgery. And I get that. So I'm like, okay, so at least and then I start telling people Monday, and they're like, oh, what did the doctor say? And I say, oh, the doctor still say Sunday. Then why are people waiting? And I'm like, you know, guys, chill. So we go on this back and forth till like 1 a.m. till we're both tired. That is sorrow, and we're just tired. Like, what else is there to say? We don't know what we're doing. So basically what I say is, okay, you know what, baby, let's come to an agreement. The agreement is, we'll do okay, so basically one of my wife's, when they did the non-stress test, my wife had done the research, and obviously I had checked as well. Well, my wife did more research than I did, but that it's not a conclusive test. And the doctors, to be fair, had agreed that it's not a conclusive test, but they were just worried, you know. It's not a conclusive test. All the other tests are fine, because maybe at that point, it could be that at that point the baby is just not moving. And that's why there are no accelerations, and you can't see the heart moving as it should be. And besides, the other 3 stats they check for on the test are relatively fine. It's just the acceleration. So in hindsight, even thinking about it, like the Doppler test is fine, the biophysical profile is fine, the 3 other things in this non-stress test is fine. It's just that acceleration. But trust me, when you're in that moment, at least for me, it was enough to be scared, because you just want, I guess, you want everything to be perfect. On Sunday morning, we'll do a non-stress test. But before you do the non-stress test, because obviously during the pregnancy, she had said, okay, one time she takes like ice blocks, like the baby moves. During the non-stress test, we couldn't get ice blocks, but you drink really chilled water. So at least we know that the baby is moving, and that at least we'll see the spikes, you know, because that's your argument, that there are no, as in that there's no reason, maybe the baby is static or it's just chilling, you know, and that's fine. So she's like, and if the results are the same, then we would, you know, and then we will go ahead with the CS on Sunday. And finally, we were about to sleep. Well, one eye closed, and she's like, but Lani, you know that one day in the, what a night, one day in the womb is better than 7 days in the world. Don't you think? I'm just like, let's just sleep, please, Tori long. And we slept and woke up and explained what we wanted with the doctors. We did the non-stress test. Chilled water. Is baby moving? Yes, baby is moving. Okay, great. Result comes out, no spikes. All along, my wife was still feeling very confident that there's nothing wrong with her baby. So basically, we say we're going to chill till Monday, and basically when our doctor is around. So we tell our doctor calls and she's like, oh, we should do it on Sunday. And we tell her the reason why we're trying to do it on Monday. And she's like, oh, thank you for the word of confidence. But guess what? Anybody can bring out a baby. Like, we don't want to say, oh, you were waiting for this doctor on Sunday and then, oh, like, how do you think I'm going to feel? You know, then we say, okay, then come in on Sunday. And she's like, she can't come in on Sunday. Anyway, so we are all agreed that we're going to wait till Monday. So midnight, obviously, so I get in the zone of trying to come for my wife. So we're making jokes, lots of jokes, and then the midwife comes and says, oh, are you ready? Are you guys ready? And then, where are the baby things? And I'm like, what baby things? We start showing her all the cool things. Oh, the diaper, the onesie. And she's like, what's this? She's like, where are the things on your list? I said, what list? And she goes and brings the list that we need to buy spirit, we need to buy cotton wool, we need to buy maxi pad, we need to. And I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this before? And they're like, didn't you come for antenatal? So to be fair to them, my wife would just go antenatal. My wife didn't used to go for like the classes. She would just go see the hospital, see the what do you call it, the doctor, and fine, blood pressure is fine, and then she goes home. Not home. Then I take her back to the office. So we're like, no. So obviously Sunday night we need to start looking. I need to go and buy all these things, all that I can, and then I get back, buy the things, bought the things, come back. It's one of those nights when you wake up like 3 times in the middle of the night and you're thinking, oh, is it not morning yet? You know, you have dreams where the day has happened. You play the day out in your mind and you think it has happened, and you wake up and you find out, oh, it's just 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And it was, yeah, so it was a very long night. And then the morning comes and you have to play comforting your wife and all your emotions. You have to keep it in check. And then, okay, now I can't remember if this was Sunday or Monday. One of the doctors comes in, and then he says that you need to sign these documents. And I'm like, what document is this? And then he's like, oh, basically, that if anything happens to your wife, you're signing, permitting us to operate, and that if anything happens, you know, it's like. And then I don't know, it feels like for the first time it dawns on me that, oh wait, yes, I know CS, I hear CS all the time, but it feels like for the first time it dawns on me that CS is actually a surgery. And because I don't know if this is normal procedure, so he's telling me all the things that can go wrong, and then in the form or contract I'm meant to sign, the things that can go wrong, they leave it blank, and they want you to write the things yourself, you know? Like infections, or she could die, or, you know, they want you to write it yourself. I'm guessing so that they won't say that, oh, you didn't read it properly. So you tell me and then say I should write it. And then obviously, as a man I try to be a man of faith, I'm like, I'm not writing those things, but he says, so I write like 2 and I say, and all the others. So that's, you know, but all the while all this is going, because my wife is present while I'm doing this, I'm laughing and making jokes of it. But my heart is like, hey, my God, who sent me to marry wife? So I'm now signing that if anything should happen to my wife, that I'm signing that it's okay, that, But I could not express the fear because I could not let my wife see the fear. So obviously I covered it in jokes and I was just laughing about it, and then I had to leave and say, oh, I need to go get something. I had to take a moment to breathe, like, and process things properly. Well, for me, I hear CS, and I don't know whether I just never think about it. I just think, you're giving birth, fantastic, but you never think that, oh, it's actually surgery, and things could go wrong. And then I'm now scared for my wife. They're actually going to open her up. She's actually scared. What if? But obviously, I have to play the calm guy. And then Monday comes, they do the procedures, put her in like the robe, and then I'd asked the doctor if I could be in the theater, and he said yes. You know, so they gave her the robe, and then they fix. Obviously, things were just done on us bit by bit. Someone comes in, tells us, oh, this is what's going to happen, and then they come and they fix the catheter. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. As in, for to pass urine, and then you know, just bit by bit. But obviously, I'm that guy. I have to like keep the mood light. You know, I just feel like I have to manage the situation. I just avoided a lot of people speaking to her that day. You know, just so that nobody, because I know my wife, she can kind of get tense when people keep asking, oh, have you done it? How was it? She just like, you know, let me, what's going on? You know, and then it's 12 o'clock. It's time. My God, it's time. And then my heart is, as in like my heart is beating. I'm like, I'm not even going to lie, I'm just thinking that, is this really going to happen? Is rapture going to happen before this event? I'm just thinking like, no, this can't really be happening. Like something is going to happen before. Or I don't know what I was thinking, but obviously I'm just smiling and checking on just teasing her basically, you know. And then we were going downstairs, and then I remember I had like my headphones on, and then we get downstairs, and then they say, oh, you can't go into the surgery, into the theater, or wherever it was. And I'm like, why? And then basically whatever. So the theater is right there, and then I'm sitting right here in the reception. Obviously, people start strolling in, anesthesiologist, the pediatrician. So at this point, it was 36 weeks and 5 days, if I remember, it was 36 weeks and 5 days. So one of the things my wife was trying to push for was to get to 37 weeks, because at least 37 weeks, it's not going to be premature, you know. So obviously there were concerns. So the pediatrician was basically getting me ready that, okay, so you know that obviously there's every fear that it's going to be a premature baby. And that we had to get like the incubator ready and the blue room, whatnot ready, and all these things. And I'm like, fine, I understand. Just, you know, do what you have to do. And then they're inside, I guess. The doctor hadn't gone in, so I don't know obviously I don't know what's going on inside. And then the accountant passes by, who I've been very chummy with, to be fair. So, as in, he's a cool guy, a very cool guy, I'm quite chummy with. And then he says that, oh, I have to come and pay half of the bill. And then I flip, and I lose it. I guess it's a lot of pent up emotions, and then I just lose it and I start shouting, which I won't say it's out of character for me, but I think it could be, as in like I'm calm a lot of times, and then I start shouting. Like, we've been upstairs all day, like since morning, doing nothing, absolutely nothing, watching the clock, doing nothing, being tense, and why didn't you come, tell me to do a transfer or whatever. And then I'm shouting and losing it, and he's trying to explain to me, and then, because I'm saying, as I'm like, is it that if I don't pay you now, are you going to wheel my wife out of the theater room? And he's trying to explain, and people are just looking at me, and I don't care. And then one of the doctors comes out and is like, what's going on? And I'm explaining, and I don't even know. I felt like a primary 1 student explaining to his teacher, this is why this man beats me. You know, this is why this boy beats me, because I just felt like I needed to, I don't know, I was just explaining a lot of things, and just said, okay, I understand you should be angry, and you can be angry, but right now your wife can hear you, and if she hears you losing your shit, and then she's going to worry. And because I think they had already started putting her under then, and then I'm just calm. And then I go back and then I'm listening to gospel songs. I'm listening to Waymaker. When the doctor goes in, I'm just like, okay, it's happening. And I feel like my feet are getting tense again because I'm like, I don't know how to explain how I was feeling. I was scared, really scared. I felt really scared. And you're listening to these songs, but it's not really connecting because there's just this like big, thing. And then they're in there for like maybe 10 minutes. And then I hear the baby cry. "Ah." And then I'm like, huh. And then I relax. But so, and then I heard the baby cry, and then I'm like, oh, finally. And then I'm relaxed. But then I didn't hear anything again. Because I was expecting, okay, you've heard the baby's cry, and then you just keep hearing. But I'm like, why is the baby not crying anymore? Why? In my head, as in so many things I just playing. So it feels like one of those park rides where, you go up. I've been going up, as in you go up really slowly, and then you get to the peak of it, and then it's relaxed, and then you just like drop. As in that, so I felt like all this while I'd been going up, and we had pick of it, and they said, oh, I heard the baby cry, and then it just like dropped, and then it was scary. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? Obviously, there was nobody to talk to because they were all inside. What's going on? What's going on? And I'm thinking, I'm pacing, as in because I'd been sitting, and then I'm pacing, and then I'm chilling, I'm sitting, I'm crouching, I'm standing, everything. And then the anesthesiologist, and he's like, congratulations, you're a father. And then everything just chills. It's like the world stops for like a little moment. And then I'm like, what of my wife? And then he says she's fine. And then obviously I just relaxed, and then they bring out, so everything happens. So obviously I'm expecting them to just rush the baby, because the room where they take care of premature babies and everything, it's just, the theater was there, then the room was there, and I was here. So I was expecting them to just bring the baby and obviously put her in incubator. But they brought out the baby, and she was fine, and there was nothing wrong. So the doctor comes out and is talking to me, because obviously we are kind of home, and everyone's talking to me that, oh, the baby is fine, that the baby was actually weighing more and she's happy with the weight, 2.35 kg. That, yeah, it's small, but she's happy with the weight. So the baby comes out, and they're like, because I don't carry babies. A baby almost fell down, my nephew almost fell down from my hands about 12 years ago. Like 11 years ago, and since then I don't carry babies. And then they wanted me to carry her, and I didn't carry her. I just like touched her hair. I didn't want to kiss her, because you hear a lot of things like, oh, don't kiss the baby because they can get infected. I just wanted her to be okay, and the worst thing, I was just looked at her, smiled, and then I'm like, oh, what of my wife? And then they took her to, so basically they still took her to the room, put her in an incubator, but what they explained is that there was actually nothing wrong with her, but because of the fears they had, they just wanted to give her oxygen, as precaution, and just monitor her for like few hours. And then, and then I'm like, oh, what of my wife? And they're like, oh, she's fine. They're just cleaning her up. And so I'm just there chilling, waiting for my wife. My wife had said, oh, when they bring the baby out, you must follow the baby. I don't want them to switch my baby. You must follow the baby. I said, okay. But I don't know. I just couldn't, because I'm like, oh, what of my wife? What of my wife? And I just went and said, okay, they put the baby there. She had said I should stay with the baby, that I shouldn't come and look for her, and just go and stay with it. But they had put her there, and I'm just like chilling. And then they bring up my wife. My God. And then you bring out my wife, and I don't know how to explain it, but my wife is vibrating. She's shaking. And I'm scared, because every other person is calm. As in, they're doctors, they're nurses, and they're just doing their thing, and she's like, so she holds my hand, and she's like, oh, we made a beautiful baby. And I'm like, yeah. But I can't really connect in that moment, because she's vibrating, and as in, she's shaking. And I'm following her, so I'm holding her hand. They're wheeling her to the room, to the general ward. And I'm thinking, because obviously I don't want to ask what's wrong in her presence. And I'm just looking like, what's going on? I'm thinking. So I guess it showed on my face. So because at some point, I was now trying to look at the bed, like, oh, is it a water bed? I don't know how to explain it. She was vibrating, as in her whole body was vibrating. And everybody was acting like, oh, not everything is normal. I'm like, I was freaking out. And then, so when she's like, oh, I figure that she sees the reaction on my face is different from what I'm saying and how I'm trying to be calming and reassuring. And she's like, oh, don't worry, it's like one of the drugs they gave me, the pain that they said is going to die down in like an hour. In my mind, I'm like, oh, so it's not a waterbed. And then they transfer her to the bed, and she's like, oh, and then we start talking about the baby, and it just is. It was for me. It was a surreal experience. Like, and it's just, how do I put it? I think I'm just grateful. Obviously, my wife recovered much quicker than she expected to recover. She recovered much quicker than the doctors expected her to recover. The baby is doing fine, you know. So it's just been an amazing journey, and you know, just having this little person, it's kind of amazing. It is, to be honest, and I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, I love my wife. So I finally wrote a second letter to my daughter and sent it to her email, and then I sent crazy pictures to her email address, like, this is your poop face, and send it. This is, and then anytime she does like a major poop, I take a picture and send it, so that when she starts, you know, coming for me in a few years, I'm like, look at it, I changed your diaper, you can't tell me nothing, you know, sit down there, you know. But it's just incredible. And I'm grateful.